It's finally here. 5D planning is now live in the Clarity platform, and I'm so excited to be able to share that with you today. Now, before we jump into 5D planning and the subsequent measuring and monitoring that can be done afterwards against the plan, there are 3 steps that you'll work on first before getting to create that plan. Now, as part of that business advisory journey that you're going to take the client through, the first thing that you're going to do is help the client understand where they are now. And here, simply what we're going to do is help the client understand their 7 key numbers, the 7 key numbers that every business owner should know and understand. And from here, once we're happy with that, we can then co-create with the client a plan of playing with the 5 levers of success, creating their point B, and then seeing where they should or could get to based on playing with all of those 5 levers of success. Going through that process and then seeing what that potential improvement is for the business as we scroll back to the top. Now, once we've done that, that then enables us, we can see the gap quite clearly, and what we're then able to do is co-create the first element of 5D planning, which is the action plan. And we can create this as a simplified action plan or as a detailed strategic plan. It's entirely your choice of what you want to do. Of course, making sure that you're getting paid for doing so in the first instance. Now here, there are 3 elements to the action plan. The first element is task sorting, making sure that the tasks that are relevant to the client are in the yes pile and those that aren't in the no pile. Then we're going to go through the prioritization process. And then after that, we're then going to go through the who, what, when in the action hub, assigning responsibility and focus and accountability, most importantly, to the client to make sure that the action plan gets done when it's supposed to get done. So with here, we're going to use this bank of task tiles, and we're going to either drag and drop, get the client to do this, drag and drop the tasks that are relevant, or click the yes and no buttons and then move through each section in turn. And as we do that, we're asking the client simply, is this task relevant, yes or no, and going through that process. When we get to the end, after we've gone through cash days, we get to the how we can help section. Now, that's the how you can help the client section. It has a list there of tasks that you can use to cross-serve or upserve your client. So as an example, we've got a 12-month financial plan to break the goals down into monthly targets, and then comparing that plan to actual, reviewing the bookkeeping, doing a tax review, looking at the funding gap and helping with funding, doing a cash flow forecast and management reports. And there's lots of other areas you can add here on your own for your particular firm as well, like succession planning or business plans and so on. You're able to create your own template of tasks. But that's the fantastic opportunity that you have here, is the ability to talk about the other services that you can help a client with without being salesy, and actually letting them know, signposting the services that they would like. And again, just putting it into the pile of whether they would like, if they're interested in it, whether it's relevant, is it yes or is it no, and then going through the next section. So once we've sorted all the tasks, we then go into the prioritization canvas. And here, what we're going to do is take each area in turn and then go into the pending area and ask the client which of these tasks is the most important, which one is the priority. And then the client will tell us from here, as we go through the whole process. We can then reset the information back to the beginning and go through the same sections in the same way. And we can drag and drop all the way down as well if we want to. Now, we recommend only having a maximum of 3 tasks for the client and having at least one for yourself. So let's say it might be the 12-month budget as an example. But you can play with these to your heart's content and move them around as well if it's more of a priority. But the point being, there's around 3 tasks for the client, no more than that really, and 1 for you to be able to work on with the client and then be able to put some plans to a date together with the client in the action hub. So once that's done, we then go into the final element, which is the action hub. And here we can see with the priorities, we can enter who is going to do that particular task in the client's team, and then when that's going to be completed. So, and again, you can do that for your own tasks. So for all of the priorities, you can then say, oh, when would you like us to look at this 12-month financial plan? And then, that's who's going to do it. So accountant, if I can spell, There we go. And then when that's going to be completed. And then as we can see, if it's going to happen sooner, it will automatically filter and go to the jump to the top of the queue. Now, all the other tasks that we said yes to, they still do exist. They're in the all tasks pile. So we've got the tasks broken down by those 5 levers of success, as well as another area and your how we can help section. But they're all broken down here. We can move the priorities around, we can create new tasks and so on. So you get to see what's going on. Plus there's a reminder here of the current tasks, of the current value, and then where you're trying to get to as well, where that point B is. So there's always a reminder of what you're trying to achieve in the action plan. Of course, as well, there's an area here too with the completed tasks as they're ticked off. So once they're ticked off, you can see who completed them, when, and how close to the deadline, and then they will go through into the completed task list too. That's the first D of the 5D planning. So important because it gives the client focus on the priorities, they take responsibility, and they have you to hold them accountable to make sure that they are going to achieve it. Now, the studies that we've seen show that anybody who is held accountable and has written down goals will accomplish 78% more. And in reality, it probably is a lot higher than that as well. So on to the second D of the 5D planning. And now we're going into financial plan. Now, at the click of a button, you can create a 12-month budget for your client. And it does this in seconds based on the numbers that you co-created together a moment ago. And this gives the client exactly what they need to look at on a monthly basis and gives them targets. Now, of course, you can edit these too if you want to. So as an example, we can go in here, change that to say be £500 a month instead of £347. It's very quick and easy to edit these on the fly. Doesn't take long to do a sense check on this and get your team to produce this for your clients. So that then becomes their plan of what they're going to achieve over the next 12 months and the numbers that they need to be hitting for their business. But you may be thinking, well, what about cash flow? You're absolutely right. We should be looking at cash flow too. And this is the third D in the 5D planning. So what we're able to do now is look at the cash flow from a sense check perspective. So this gives us a high level theoretical cash flow sense check, giving an indication of what's going to happen with cash based on the information that we've got and based on the plan that we've just co-created with the client, and seeing whether there's anything in here that points to the business going red, going negative in cash, or going close to that. And if they do, it gives an opportunity for the firm to show the client and then also explain that we should be doing, or you should be doing, a detailed cash flow forecast to make sure that that is correct, and if it is, at what point cash is definitely going to be needed. And also it signposts nicely to funding plan. Now, funding plan is the fourth element and of 5D. We'll come back to that in a moment, because I just want to share with you in here how this is made up. So we have the opening cash balance, which comes through from the data that we've already got in Clarity. And you can see the net cash movement, the closing cash balance here as well. And that's the sum of the two. And then underneath that, we have the cumulative tax for this period. So that's the tax, the business tax that's included on the financial plan that's being deducted at the bottom. So you can see if the client were to save for their tax, their business tax as they go along, this is what the position the business would be in at the end, because we do need to pay the tax man later on, of course. But if you wanted to just look at the first 3 lines, you could do that too. So it's entirely up to you how you're going to discuss things with your client. Now, the net cash movement, how this is calculated, it comes through, the net profit before tax comes through from the financial plan. And then we apply the movement on debtors and creditors, also looking at the improvements that you've made in cash days too, if you have made any. And that's broken down in here so you can see exactly what's going on. And then you can actually edit these numbers down here as well. So we can see the historical tax that's been paid. So the historical corporation tax, the historical VAT and so on, and payroll tax, and as well as the dividends or distributions that may be taken by the business owner, as well as being able to add any other amounts here manually in the same way as you would on the financial plan. Now, how this these numbers are calculated, it's net of VAT, as you would expect the financial plan to be as well. So the only time that VAT is considered is because of the historical context, that there's an element in the balance sheet when the financial plan was created. So that's taken into account, as well as in cash at that point of when the balance sheet was created for this plan moving forward. So that comes out, but otherwise, these figures are calculated net of VAT. As we explained, it is a sense check. If you need to do more detailed calculations, this is done at a click of a button, within seconds. If you need to do more detailed calculations, you can do, and then be able to advise the client accordingly on what's going on. But this enables the client to either have peace of mind that their financial plan is producing operating profit as well as operating cash, or that there may be a lag in the cash coming in and they may need some funding, or they may need a detailed cash flow forecast. Now, moving into the funding plan, so this is the fourth D, what we have here is a comprehensive 3-step process that you and the team can go through to help the client get the best possible funding for their business. So it starts off with qualification, what's the purpose of the loan, what type of finance is best, through quantification. So what's the current position of the business, how much they're looking to borrow, when do they need the money, and then the presentation, what information have they got to hand, or what do they need to get ready to send across to the funder, and so on. So that's a full list there that you can delegate to a team member, or you can use for risk mitigation. It's effectively a live working paper. And if you wanted to, you could use it to justify the client the fee for the funding service that you're providing. In addition to that though, once you have done that, and that's completely optional by the way, you don't have to go through that process, but that will help you and the team get the best possible result for the client. You can then get funded, compare the market type approach, looking at the possible best funders for your client's business, and be able to select up to 4 to be able to pursue. And this doesn't go on the credit history of your client. It's there just to purely help understand what is possible from a funding perspective for them. So that's the fourth element of 5D planning. The last element, the fifth element of 5D planning, is the 7 key numbers plan. Now within 7 key numbers, what we have here is bringing the numbers back full circle. So we're focused on the 7 key numbers again. And what we're looking at here, instead of in isolation about what the numbers actually are, we're looking at the numbers in comparison to the plan. So we're able to see what the actual is compared to the plan, and then also have a bit of history there to show what was happening before the plan. And again, we can flip these around as we did with the 7 key numbers to be able to tell us a little bit more of a story of what happened, where we were before, what the plan was, where we are now, and then what that difference is. So this is brilliant for the client to be able to see how they're progressing and start that measure and monitoring process using the 7 key numbers. So it's not just using the P&L or cash, it's looking at the business holistically for them to understand what's exactly going on. Now that's the view, the summary view for the client. You may also like the detailed view, more so for the team and the leaders in the firm, so that you can see a history of what's going on and what the plan is going forward. So for the rest of the year, so that's for all of the 7 key numbers there. And you can, of course, flip these around as well to be able to see what's going on with those numbers too. And finally, we do have a data view. So you'll be able to see how those numbers are calculated, what's included within those numbers. And if you wanted to, you could scroll down to the bottom and then do a simple comparison of actual versus plan in a table format here too. So you can eat your heart out in terms of the presentation style for you and your clients and for your team to be able to understand what's going on. Some clients are more visual, some prefer more detail, some prefer tables. You then have the option to be able to do that with the client and help them moving forward. So that starts, that's the 5th D, if you like, within the 5D planning. That starts the measuring and monitoring process as well. We can also continue that measuring and monitoring process using the financial plan performance. So what that's actually doing is using the financial plan that you've created with the client and then comparing that to actual. Now that can be done on a month basis or on a quarterly basis. And you can see, you can scroll through again, very similar, going through the financial plan, seeing how the business is performing. Where is there a difference and why there is a difference to start with, and then what we're going to do about it. And then at the top of the financial plan performance, you can then see the biggest positives and the biggest negatives, and then have a conversation around those with the client as to understanding why that happened and then what they're going to do about it next. So let's jump back into the journey. That covers all of the business advisory journey. More specifically, it covers 5D